Good afternoon. Our senior design project is From COGS to Co-Processors, an evaluation of digital transformation's impact on production. Our project consisted of 4 different phases, and each one of our group members took a different point. So my name is Nicole Chipkowski, and I was the point for the literature review. I also did schedule keeping, and I was the document editor.
Hello, I'm Alexander Augustine Douglas. I was voted on to be the team leader for this project, which I was very honored to receive. And I also decided to take point on simulation and development for the simulation framework.
Hi, I'm Daniel Johnson. I was the leader in regards to being the main customer point of contact, and I took point on data analysis, logistics, and assisting with developing the simulation.
Hello, I'm Sophia Flores, and I'm the point for the survey. It was made with Qualtrics and helped with question development and research on soft skills and digital transformation.
We were given this project due to the fact that we are all part of the UCF student work program, so our client came from that. And our project was basically to measure benefits of digital transformation and communicate the urgency of implementing digital transformation into different businesses. We had to break this down into 4 different parts: the literature review, survey, analyzing data, and a simulation. The goals of this project were to determine key factors for various types of digital transformation and to determine which factors were more important in the production and manufacturing realm. We also had to develop KPIs to empirically demonstrate the benefits of digital transformation, so we were able to use them in a simulation. Phase 1 was our literature review. We broke that down into 3 parts: performance management, worker enablement, and process digitization. Performance management was to define important KPIs. Worker enablement was where we dove into our soft skills, which were communication and attitudes of employees. And process digitization was covering collaborative networks, digital threads, and process automation and machine learning. Now I will pass it on to Sophia.
Thank you, Nicole. So phase 2 was our survey. We chose our participants through the CWEP program and the people we knew. And these participants were all involved in production or manufacturing. The participants were voluntary, which means they were not compensated for their time. We did at the beginning of the survey ask some baseline questions to make sure that our participants had A, been involved in a digital transformation, and B, it was recent in the past 7 years. So the second part was the meat of the KPIs. So we measured the KPIs 2 ways: in a Likert scale and rank order. Likert was what you can see at the bottom, which was a 5-point scale from extremely disagree to extremely agree, leaving a neutral option. And the rank order questions were asking ranking from 1 through 4. So some considerations when we were doing our survey were mental workload. We wanted to make sure that the questions were easy to understand and easy to answer. So rank order questions do require more mental workload, so we made sure to minimize it to only 3 questions. And since this was a voluntary survey, we also wanted to make sure that it was short to take and it took under 10 minutes. And I want to pass it back to Dan for the corresponding analysis.
Thank you, Sophia. So taking the data garnered from the survey, in addition to factors taken from our literature review, human factors, business factors, and technical factors from the respective sections, we employed Minitab to garner inferential statistics about our survey results, trying to find our different factors' relations to success in digital transformation. We initially wanted to do an ANOVA for our Likert scale questions to find the differences between these factors, and Spearman's correlation for ranking the importance of our ranking question factors. Unfortunately, we did not reach the golden number of 30 surveys to have a normal set of data for our Likert scale questions, so we had to assume the data to be ordinal instead. So we searched for other statistical tests to measure our data for the Likert scale questions, and we settled on using the Kruskal-Wallis and the Mann-Whitney tests, which are non-parametric, and still using Spearman's correlation for our ranking questions. Some of the more notable results garnered from the industrial survey: proper digital transformation training is positively correlated with successful digital transformation. Digital transformation is best continuously rolled out over all business areas simultaneously, concurrently, and continuous digital threads are positive, the use of them positively correlated with digital transformation. And I'll pass it off to Alex.
Thank you, Dan. So at the start of this project, we were given a mission by our customer that a core part of it is that because we don't have KPIs right now for digital transformation, it's hard to motivate the urgency for it and see if it's going in the right direction because you don't have these key performance indicators that were typically used with traditional processes that were well documented. So we had to go out there and develop our own KPIs. And to split this challenge into to make it more manageable, we decided to approach it from these 2 different viewpoints of internal KPIs. How do we measure the performance of the company internally if it's doing digital transformation right, and impact KPIs? Is it serving the customer? Is there a benefit for the corporation, the organization that is coming out of the invested resources beyond just the pure number standpoint? Next slide, please. This impact KPI flowchart demonstrates this multi-viewpoint process that I'm talking about, where oftentimes companies look at things much more traditionally in the revenue post-DT versus revenue pre-DT because of the investment that doing a digital transformation requires. But the benefits of digital transformation often go beyond just a pure numbers from before and after standpoint. It often heavily entails the revenue that you get from new products and services being available to you to sell because of the digital transformation, and combining those both into your return on investment calculation. Next slide, please. Using all this, we brought it all together to build a framework, because another key part of what our customer wanted is if we could develop a framework that could be turned into a simulation that could then back up these KPIs that I just talked about. Next slide, please. This here you see right now is the map of the framework that we have developed, where at the start here you see at 1, all the elements you need for a successful digital transformation, 2, all the elements you need for implementing a successful digital transformation with the elements of worker training, data collection and refining, and improvement projects. Then you see at 5, the self-reinforcing cycle I talked about with the implementation KPIs of the training, and at 6, you see the impact KPIs represented in what is the customer and the organization getting out of it. Next slide, please. Now I'll hand it off to my teammate, Dan.
Thank you, Alex. So what you see here is a map of our a system dynamics, a pseudo system dynamics, and a discrete event simulation done in Simio. It's this is one of 2 mapping out of factors that we're doing that are going to run side by side. One being digitally transformed, the other not being digitally transformed. Throughout both of these, there are going to be 3 different entities going through these simulations: employees, components, the final product. Each of these, both of these equivalent, other than the fact of being digitally transformed factories, will have different workstations representative of the different aspects in the defense production industry, whether it be production flow with smart machines, quality procurement, and whatnot. And they will assemble the components into the final product, whatever they may be. As this happens, data points are gathered and sent to a control tower / management hub for data refining, data cleaning, and whatnot. And this data is taken to develop improvement projects. These improvement projects are sent back to their respective workstations and implemented in the form of altering the distribution used to govern the reliability and the processing time of each of these workstations. As workers are sent out to and taken off the line to get relevant digital transformation training in order to use these new improvement projects, such as like an RPA implementation, machine learning implementation, anything such as that, and the specifics increase in reliability and decrease in time taken from our literature review research. Eventually, even though employees are having to go out and do these trainings through the improvement projects, improving the process as a whole, the digitally transformed factory will eventually outperform the standard factory, empirically showing the benefits of embracing that digital transformation over time. And I will pass it off to Sophia.
Thank you, Dan. So I want to talk about the implementations and impact on society that our project can have. So in implementation, we wanted to use our KPIs to help understand what is necessary to have a successful digital transformation. So we found that it's important to have it to be feasible. So you want to make sure what you're transforming in technology is specific and to the point. You also need to have the employees that are using this new technology eager to learn it, and they want to be able to see that it's going to be useful to their work. It's also important, once you have these 2 factors down, that you can model what projected success looks like to make sure you're hitting those targets, because digital transformation can take years to continue and you want to make sure you're hitting those correct benchmarks. So as a whole, the impact should be able to help you have a smoother, better digital transformation and hit the targets that were anticipated. Next slide. So we did have some challenges while going through our project. First hurdle was in the surveys. We did have to hit a legal hurdle where our company had to make sure that they could approve our survey, and that took a few weeks. So that did eat into the time that we had for participants to answer the survey. The next was an analysis. Like Dan had mentioned, the ANOVA did have some issues with validity. And finally, our simulation section and the framework. It was hard to model the dynamic system in a discrete event software, which was Simio. The feasibility, since it is so broad, was hard to take those general assumptions and KPIs and model it. I want to pass it back to Nicole.
Thank you. To wrap this up, we're going to talk about the feedback we got from our client. Basically, we started with digital transformation, and his feedback was to narrow our scope. So that's why we picked production and manufacturing. The biggest lesson we learned was how to start from the ground up. Because digital transformation is up and coming, it is relatively new. There were no KPIs, so we had to learn how to develop those. So there was a lot of brainstorming and innovative thinking involved. The motivation was to get ahead of the curve. Again, because this is brand new, we were taking a step in the right direction that many people have not taken yet. Thank you so much.